Thank you so much. So Dr. Sudhir, you talked about the spiritual aspect and the scientific aspect. So, uh, so let me put up this question to you. See, these science and spirituality, they are vastly different terms, as I could think in my mind. So, science is all about continuously evolving, doing logical and imperial evidences, observations, and whereas spirituality is more like a faith experience. So, for example, Brahma Kumaris have got what around 120 presence in 120 countries, more than million followers, but yet each follower has the different experience. On the contrary, if I look into the science, so hypothetically speaking, if I am to put two hydrogen atoms with oxygen, I'll get water. And if you also have the similar environment, you'll also get water. So that is where I see the divergent views in science and spirituality. So, what are your views on these two?
Yeah, so as rightly highlighted by you, science is more related to observations, logic, empirical evidence, mathematical proofs, and repeatability of the same observations. As you rightly said, that H2O will give H2O. On the other hand, spirituality, as the name suggests, is related to spirits or souls, what we feel or experience, our thinking patterns, our habits, our wisdom, our memory, our relationships, our behavior, our intuition, our predictions, and on the top of it, discovering and connecting with the Supreme Soul. And that's where, it gets very, very complex, too complex. So it's not a mathematical phenomena where all the time it is 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 or 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Because even if we see our own thinking pattern, many times in the morning, our view is something, and by the evening, our view changes to something else. So it's like soul. It's a living being as compared to normally the scientific phenomena which are there. So spiritual experiences may or may not be repeatable. Yes, sometimes they repeat, sometimes, and many times they don't. And there is a lot of unpredictability in human behavior. Out of a huge world population of more than 8 billion people, no two human beings are alike physically and mentally both. And still, there is some resemblance of a child with parents, siblings, and relatives. People living in different parts of the world do have specific physical as well as habitual traits. So, geography wise, also, this varies. So, there is a lot of diversity, and yet we are all humans with similar physiology. So, if I talk about science, then it is related to physiology, which is the same. But there are number of simple observations which tell us that both science and spirituality are linked and affect each other. Now I'll take a few examples. If we see from a biological perspective, science talks about brain, memory, nervous system, heart, and other body organs, which keep us active. We keep us alive, we keep us active. But spirituality talks about soul, mind, thoughts, intelligence, habits, sanskars or impressions on the souls, etc. But if we look at the impact of stressful, negative, waste, excessive thoughts on the body, it may lead to diseases like depression, heart attack, high blood pressure, etc. So what has happened? That the spiritual aspect of thinking in a certain manner is creating an impact on a biological body or which is studied and repeatable through science, right? On the other hand, a happy and contented mind usually leads to a healthy body. That means the soul, the mind does affect the body, even though there is no direct connection visibly and physically, right? So I can't say thought is wired to my heart or whatever. So similarly, there is a widespread belief that our eating and drinking habits do impact our thinking pattern. As there is a saying, what we eat, so our mind becomes. So that means it's a two-way phenomena. What we think impacts our body, and what our body consumes impacts our thought. Now, this is about a biological phenomena. But let us take an example from physics. Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is very well known. Everybody understands this. If there are a set of pendulums, you just pull one pendulum, the last one will go, it will again come back and hit it, and then the first one will go. And that typically that experiment shows it working. But similarly, the spiritual law or the karmic law also states that what we do to others is what we get in return. This is very simple. So, and can be, very easily seen walking in the path. You just shout on somebody, the guy will shout back. You abuse somebody, the guy will abuse back. You smile for somebody, the guy will smile back, and so on. The karmic debt is always settled, even though the time of settlement may be immediate, short-termed, long-termed, or very long-term, spanning across multiple lives. So there is a significant similarity in these two laws, the spiritual law and the physics, the Newton's third law of motion. Now I take another law from physics in the area of energy. That is the first law of thermodynamics, or the law of conservation of energy. Now that law states that energy can never be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transformed, like heat energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, etc. But the law of spirituality also states that souls or spirits are powerful energies which can never be created, never be destroyed, but the degrees of the souls may go up and down. Okay? Based on their degree, we label them as good soul, bad soul, pure soul, impure soul, angel soul, evil soul, etc. So again, we see there's a stark similarity in the law of physics and the law of spirituality. I take one more example. I take the second law of thermodynamics, and that states that the entropy or the chaos or disorderliness of the universe must always be increasing. Okay. Now, this is a well-known law. This is fine. Because even if you convert a particular energy to a different form, there is always a different leak of energy
Loss. Yes,
somewhere,
yes.
loss of
Right,
energy.
right.
So, similarly, in spirituality, there is a talk of reducing degrees of souls or spirits always, whereby the negativity or disorderliness keeps spreading across the world and it keeps on increasing day by day. People are becoming more and more impulsive, impatient, and aggressive. And that pattern is increasing day by day. So this gives some initial perspective that there is a linkage between what physics and mathematics observe and what spirituality brings as an experience. So I think this is the initial perspective from my side.